And so now it is truly my honor to be able to introduce to some and present to most of us the great mayor of the city of Newark, none other than Ras J. Baraka.
I think that's the best introduction I ever had.
I say it was pretty good. And I asked the mayor, obviously he's the mayor, whatever opening remarks you'd like to make, and he said, let's get right to the panel. So in that case, if we can have our first three panelists join us this morning, and we'll get right to it. He's all about business, and we're going to make sure we're all about business here this morning as we get going. So if we can have Natasha and Danielle and Dee Dee, please join us up here. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor has an awesome group of leaders, several of whom have joined with us this morning. And we won't go through their bios. You have their biographies with you in your program, but we want to get right to the discussions and have a great discussion this morning with some people that are really making a difference here in the city of Newark. I asked the mayor, we've done this in a couple different formats, and he thought going back to this format that we used a couple times would be a great way to introduce some of these leaders, as well as accentuate the number of women in leadership positions here in the city of Newark. So with that, we've asked, and this is going to be fairly quick, but Natasha Rogers, Chief Operating Officer for the city of Newark, is going to begin, and I've just asked them each to outline just the general scope of their responsibilities, if they can do that fairly concisely, and the mayor will chime in if they've missed anything on their that should be on their plates, and as well as kicking off the discussion about changing the narrative about Newark, which we're certainly in the midst of. So with that, Natasha, welcome, and please.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it. Before we get started, I just want to talk about really the whole focus of what the second term of Mayor Baraka's administration is about. And it has been articulated through a vision statement that has been presented about 2 weeks ago. If you haven't received it yet, please let us know. We will email it to you directly. So the whole goal throughout all the agencies, and I guess it speaks to what my role is. So I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the city. I'm the first Chief Operating Officer for the city of Newark. On my almost year anniversary. Some people thought I wouldn't last 2 months, but look at me, still standing. I'm also the interim deputy mayor for economic and housing development, and that's what my background, most of my background is. My training by trade is engineering and law, and I got my start here in the city of Newark. I'm born and raised here in the Central Ward. First ever corporate job was at Anheuser-Busch InBev. Was trained as a student leader in our Newark Youth Summer Youth Program that launched me into the Newark Public Schools Future Business Leaders Program that launched me into PSC&G. So if you were ever mistaken about how much I'm a kid from Newark, don't ever be mistaken by that. But going back to what the Chief Operating Officer's duties are, and really that's the focus on all the agencies within the organization, within our administration, to help them focus on process improvement using data-based evidence-making, policy-making, and implementation. But with that said, the goal of the city, the vision of the city is Newark Forward, but what does that really mean? Our goal is to be empowered, safer, educated, equitable, and collaborative. And we go into more detail with that. But like I said, we can forward that information to you at a later point in time. So I guess specifically right now, some of the great things that we're focused on is we're in the budget making process, which was introduced last week. One of the earliest budgets that the administration has ever, introduced in the city of Newark. And the goal is to be more equitable and more efficient with our taxpayer dollars. In addition to that big Herculean effort that was a collaborative effort across all our agencies, especially with our Director of Finance and our Director of Budget. I'm also the interim Deputy Mayor of Economic Development, and with that we focus on more equitable and inclusive development. As it's been spouted for years now, the pipeline for the city of Newark when it comes to development is about $4.8 billion now, which is $2 billion more than it's been $2 billion more than 4 years ago. With that said, we are in an opportune time, speaking of opportune, because of all the great incentives that are available. So in addition to the local city incentives and our state incentives, we have a great federal incentive program which leverages people's, it was a product of tax reform, and leverages the capital gains that people can leverage with their excess or with their income. And as a result of that, the city has 13 opportunity zones. And we want to take perfect opportunity of that because we're trying to, or the goal is to make sure that we do more development across the city. And as a result of this catalytic incentive package, we want to make sure that we leverage every dollar in order to maximize the ability to do more, more equitable and inclusive development. So I'll stop for a moment.
Well, and we can continue the conversation. Natasha, maybe we'll give Danielle a chance to talk a little bit about her awesome responsibilities, and we've already heard a little bit about the budget. I see the mayor nodding when I said awesome responsibilities. So he's obviously very comfortable with you doing that, so please.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Smith, and I have been employed with the City of Newark for 29 and a half years, 5 years being the finance director. My responsibilities are financial reporting, generating revenues, which is my main focus, is generating revenues for the city. Also investments. I interact with the financial advisors and bond counsel in issuing bonds and notes. And I also assist with any financial matters in the City of Newark with the departments. Thank you.
And Lieutenant Gully, if you want to introduce yourself, and she told me I could call her Dee Dee, so I'm just letting you know that's not a sign of disrespect because I always call officers first by their lieutenant, sergeant, and so forth. I don't want to say always, that makes it seem like I have a lot of interaction with police. Dee Dee, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Deidre Gully. I'm police lieutenant with the Department of Public Safety, the Police Division. Born and raised in the native of the City of Newark, a mother and grandmother. I worked in various titles throughout my tenure with this department, with the City of Newark. For the 31 years that I've been here, I work for the Division of Personnel. I work for the Department of Fire. I work for Office of Emergency Management, and now with the Police Division. And in 2016, the Honorable Mayor joined all three divisions, all three departments, and made them the Department of Public Safety. And now I'm still part of the Fire Division, the Police Division, and the Office of Emergency Management right now as a blended family, so I am home where I am now. Thank you, Honorable Mayor, for that. With that, my role as a lieutenant in the Police Division, I serve as a special assistant to the Public Safety Director, Anthony Ambrose. I'm responsible for ensuring, I'm sorry? Oh, oh okay. I'm responsible for ensuring the effective delivery of services provided to the public administratively and operationally under the leadership of Director Ambrose. With that and our blended family, as again, we all are a responsive agency, being police, fire, and the Office of Emergency Management. With that, we want to ensure one unified goal, and that's the delivery of services to the citizens of Newark. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that as a backdrop, knowing who these folks are, let's touch on finances for a moment, if we can. And we talked about the budget just being introduced, and obviously there are a lot of people who are significant stakeholders here wondering what the budget might look like this year, even though it's at the beginning of the process. And what kinds of things are you going through right now to figure out what your budget looks like? I can't imagine the difficulty, Mayor, as well as Danielle, when you're dealing with a state funding and state budget that has a lot to do with what the city's budget looks like. What steps you have to go through, and that's certainly been covered in the press right now quite a bit. So what are the steps that you're going through now, and if you can give some indication of, people are always interested, as are the citizens of Newark, in their property taxes and where that might head. Any early indications?
So the budget was introduced a week or so ago, and the budget is $202 million. No, that's for the property tax, I'm sorry. So the budget was introduced a week and a half ago. And the process that it takes to craft the budget is to make sure that your appropriation and revenues match, agree. And so we had to do some cuts, and all of the departments had to cut their budget from the previous year. So that was done. And we had to also include additional funds for additional services that wasn't in the budget from the previous year. So the budget, in crafting the budget, it takes quite a bit of time, and we do have a budget director, and she's not here today, and I assist with the budget. I make sure that she has all the revenues that she needs in order to meet our appropriations. That's the part that the finance department provides in crafting the budget.
So if I could add a couple of elements to that. So the budget process is pretty, all collaborative. All the directors are coming together, and what we did this year, which was different from past years, is that we met bi-monthly to talk about not only our present budget from 2018, but also what the future budget is, and really wanted to do a zero-based budget and focus on what services are we currently provided, whether they're funded for or not. And by doing that, you realize that, like a lot of cities across the nation, but particularly urban cities, the resources and the demand for services are larger than what we can supply. But what the city of Newark has been great at is that we are able to partner with a lot of private stakeholders in order to leverage dollars in order to make sure that those services are fulfilled. But you don't know what you don't know until you put it down. And as a result, we started off with not just a wish list, but what are we currently doing right now? And if we really put out the number for the services that we provide and how much that costs, the tax rate will go through the roof. So realistically, then also, then we say to all our directors is that, okay, now we have to be realistic. And we have to say, what is a reasonable tax rate increase? And now let's cut the fat. And to Director Smith's point, that took an intense amount of time. But I think it's important, and the mayor also agrees, that people really understand what it takes to build a budget, not just the person that manages the budget, which is our budget director, but every department. And as a result of that, we also want to make sure that community residents understand what went into the budget making process. So later this year, or later this month, we'll be going out into the community doing community budget hearings, which is also different than what has happened in the past. I don't know if the mayor wants to.
So I just wanted to hear you guys talk for a minute, but what Natasha is saying is absolutely correct. We're going to go out and have these discussions in the community with our People's Assembly and begin informing people about the budget process, what it takes, also the content of the budget, what we're actually going to spend money on, and the important things that community folks may be interested in, or things they may say, well, we don't think you should spend that much money on this, right? So give them an opportunity to have a real discussion about budget and place-based budgeting and all the other kind of things that affects their direct community, their neighborhood. And so as we go forward, we can use the information to inform us on how to move forward on upcoming budget. So I think that's important, particularly since there's a lot of money coming through the city, and we're trying our best to capture it. And I think Danielle's a little modest how we are able to capture the kind of finances that's necessary, the revenue, to be able to move the city forward. When we came in, we had a $93 million deficit, right? And we gloss over that now like it's nothing. And we had a structural deficit as well. And to get from there to today means that we had to raise significant amount of revenue. We had to be very serious about the process itself. And so that is a Herculean task. It was incredible that we were even able to do that. So, the folks that were involved in that need a lot of, accolades because of the work that was done. We could have easily still been in this situation 5 years later.
Yes.
And many cities have. It's municipal finances are incredibly complex. especially when you're dealing with a community as diverse and with as many needs as this community is. Mayor, you mentioned the People's Assembly, and one of the things that I've noted that you've certainly done is, because of your leadership, marry the residents, the business community, nonprofits, community groups around the same goals and the same intentions. And that's a very difficult task. I don't have to tell you, but I think that you've set a very high bar for us to collaborate and cooperate. The People's Assembly is one thing, a very efficient way of getting word out about what the city is doing and the resources that are available. Can you just describe a little bit about that?
First, I would say we're still engaged. We're not really married yet. We're trying to we're trying to get there, you know what I mean?
Long courtships can be very nice.
But, you know, you have all of these institutions in the city who have just been used to doing their own thing for a very, very long time. And not having the trust in, you know, each other or the process. So that in and of itself is a huge task for us to do, bring everybody together around the same kind of goals. And Natasha laid out our Newark Forward agenda, the kind of mission statement, if you will. And at the bottom of it is a collaborative city, right? So how do we use all of these things? And I always say, you know, our collective IQ is bigger than our individual IQ. And everything that we try to do collectively, we have done better at than the things we're still holding on to individually, the things that we still are, you know, very, very, very aggressive about, not handing it over to everybody. We are still tiptoeing along in those areas. But the things that we've all hands on deck, we've made considerable progress on. And, you know, issues around education, around economic development, economic growth, I mean, issues around policing, all of those things we're seeing huge kind of dividends on, because there are a lot of folks who have brain power and are fully committed to making those things happen. So it has been awesome to watch. You know, a lot of people say that they can collaborate, but I don't agree with that. Collaboration is a skill. It has to be taught. It is not something that people know inherently. People cooperate, but they don't necessarily collaborate. And I think it's important for us to try to figure that out, and we are doing our best to get there.
Some of the things that we've talked about, and maybe Danielle, just quickly we can talk about some of the streamlining in terms of the business community, and as one collaboration and evidence of your listening, some of the challenges that small businesses have getting permits and getting their licenses and things. Can you just talk very quickly about some of the things that you've taken on there to do that?
Sure. The mayor asked me to create a task force for the online business license. So the task force was created 2 months ago, and all of the parties that are involved in doing the approvals for the business license, such as the police department, fire, engineering, health, we all collaborate once a month, and we discuss the issues. So we know we had negative feedback about the e-portal system for licenses, being that it was taking a long time for the businesses to receive their licenses. So we came up with some short-term goals to improve the system, as well as some long-term goals. One of the short-term goals is that in the fire department and in the finance department, they operate with several systems to review the data in order to approve a license. So we're working on, right now, integrating those systems so they will both be in sync, and this will improve the time in receiving your license. One of the long-term goals is if you have a grocery store, and there are various licenses that's needed for a grocery store, ice, milk, etc., we are going to combine all the licenses to one master license, and each license will expire at the same time. So this is a big, big accomplishment which we will implement in 2020. Therefore, the businesses will no longer have to apply multiple times to receive their licenses for a grocery store. They will only have to apply one time, and all your licenses will be combined and reflected on that one master license.
It'll certainly be a help for businesses as well as those of you who own real estate and have tenants who are those small businesses, and getting them up and running much more quickly will certainly be something that everyone appreciates. So that's great to hear. As we're talking about technology, Natasha, and how you're innovating, is there a way? I know Danielle, and when we talked on the phone, we discussed that certain things her department does as far as licensing, but permitting and all are in other parts of the city. Are there efforts underway to try to make those other parts of permitting and the inspections necessary for certain licenses to come together to make that an easier process overall?
Yes. Short answer, yes. The hard part, or where the work starts or happens, is making sure that the reality of it is that when we talk about government services and city services, the end user is always one person, but how we manifest and get to that point touches so many departments and agencies throughout the city. And I think that's really where my role came from, was that to help the departments better speak to one another, and to your point, really understand not just the speaking, but really evaluate data in order to assess, one, where we are and where we're trying to go. So sometimes we take a symptom and we manifest that and make that seem like that's the problem. And it's through the conversations and through tracking the process that you really understand that what you thought was the problem is not really it. So I think the business license one is a great example because people physically have to go out and do inspections. And to public safety's credit, like you said, you're in your blended family. There's so many elements of those employees that are in your purview that really, once they had a better understanding of you can speak more to it, a better understanding of their processes and how it interacts with other people, we were able to find some more mechanisms in order to mitigate the obstacles for small businesses and mid-sized companies to get to the point where they need to be. To the point about technology, we try to infuse that in everything that we do. I think public safety is the largest customer we have in the city of Newark or in the agencies when it comes to leveraging technology. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Okay, you want me to finish? Yeah, okay, I'm trying to be collaborative and integrative and inclusive here.
You're doing such a well job. Thank you very much.
As an engineer and just a technologist, I guess in my spirit, one of the major things that we try to do with the budget is to make sure that we don't treat IT as this cost center, but also look at it as a revenue-generating organization. And as a result, with any startup or catalytic organization, you have to invest in it. So in order for them to be able to maximize utility for all the agencies across the city, we have to invest in them. So we've hired a great chief technology and information officer. He's the former chief technology officer for the state of New Jersey, and also did great work in the state of Maryland. His name is Steve Emanuel. And he does, with his breadth of experience, he's able to bridge the gap to your point, or where you're trying to get, is that in order to infuse this collaboration and infuse the great ideas that happen out of the biweekly and bi-monthly meetings, is order that we have to capture that data and capture the systems in order to measure compliance and measure success.
So, look, go ahead.
I just wanted to add also that a one-stop center was created several months ago, which is located in City Hall, B13. And you can use the one-stop to renew your permits and also your licenses.
So I was going to say, also what is important is that we have more businesses trying to come online than ever before. Most of these issues that we're talking about in terms of automation are new issues as well, because we didn't have automation before either, right? So we automated these systems, and now we're trying to perfect this automation. We've been going through these iterations of it over and over and over again, and you're asking people who have never done this, who have done these things for a long period of time, to now show them these things. Now we're doing it, in an automated way, in-house, as well as folks coming to use the system. So we have to perfect the system, and we've been going over and over trying to do that. And there's no lag, so there's no period where we can stop and rest and get it together, then go back, because businesses will keep coming. They keep coming. And a point that Danielle was making is that the problem is, these businesses, their licenses expire at different times. And sometimes parts of the licenses that they have, different licenses, expire at different times, and they can't get the business license until all of that stuff is done and paid for. So we are working through all of those things, trying to make it more expeditious, more efficient as well, and make sure that automation works, that the technology is right at the same time. So, I mean, it's a lot of work. We're asking folks to build the plane as it's going, right? We don't have a chance to land it and say, let's fix it. We have to go because new businesses are coming, as well as old businesses trying to get their license renewed.
On the subject of technology, Dee, let's talk a little bit about the department or the police division and some of the advances, how you're using technology to do the job of keeping everyone in the city safe.
One of the biggest challenges that we found is that we need to actually enhance our community involvement. We need to become more transparent with the community, have them more involved in what's going on in the Department of Public Safety. So what we did was implemented the Citizen Virtual Patrol, which allows users, currently we had 10,000 registered users. What is they have access to our surveillance cameras. They can actually go in, view things, let us know what's going on. The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a town to keep the city safe. So with that, we're reaching out to the community to get the community involved. We can't do it alone. We are one. We need to be many. So with that, we incorporated the Citizen Virtual Patrol project. A lot of people are using that access and providing us with information. We also have the Public Safety Academy, which is an 8-week program where the community comes in and they learn what we do as patrol officers in the street to help safeguard themselves, safeguard their homes, their families, and their friends. Again, we want to make this a better place to work, live, and play here in the city of Newark. So we're implementing these things to get the community more involved into what we're doing as a police agency.
Going back to the whole budget issue, at the same time you're trying to do all of that, there's a lot of turnover in the department. So from a budgetary and a human resources perspective, you want to just touch a little bit?
Yes, back in 2010, we had major layoff that occurred within the city of Newark. With that, we lost over 150 police officers. Our attrition right now is dwindling down due to retirements. Our turnover right now rate is a little slower than normal because we no longer have our own police academy. I believe we're working towards that, Honorable Mayor, to get our own academy back. Thank you. With that being said, if we have our own academy here within the city of Newark, we can hire the numbers that we need at one given time. So if we want to actually appoint 150 police officers one shot, we can do that here in the city of Newark versus having to send 150 police officers to different county academies throughout the state of New Jersey, which is unfair because even though the curriculum under the Police Training Commission is the same, but the techniques that's being employed by the different academies are somewhat slightly different. Therefore, we need to have one mindset when they come here and work in the city of Newark, because that way they're dedicated to the city of Newark.
And it costs more money.
And it costs more money, yes.
So I think I just want to, and we could go on for hours. I think we all need to get you all back to work, and I know these folks do as well. So in a moment, we're going to proceed with the next step of our discussion this morning. But I just want to make one observation, and that was, I've been here, I'm a newcomer. I've only been here 20 years with this organization. And I just remember, and it wasn't that long ago, when the first thing we talked about was public safety and crime in Newark. And that narrative, while it hasn't changed enough for any of us, I think has definitely changed. That was, if we had a gathering like this, the first thing we wanted to hear about was crime statistics and what are we doing to stop this or stop that. And I think through a lot of hard work, the community is beginning to build, and providing more opportunities is certainly the way, and better education, and the number of things that have come together in this city, and especially with the mayor's leadership, I think are taking us to a place where, while it is certainly important and we certainly have a long way to go, it's not the first thing that it doesn't any longer define the city, and I think that's an achievement. It's obviously a work in progress, but something worth noting, and I think many of you would agree with that assessment. So with that, I want to thank our first three panelists this morning for their participation, and ask Amina and Burnell to join us. We're going to make this a very quick transition. So we'll follow the same procedure here if we can, and Amina, we'll start with you. And I'm very pleased to say I've been a longtime board member of the Newark Workforce Development Board, and certainly have seen a lot of progress in that organization and in the work that's being done in the city. So, Amina, if you just want to give, I'm not sure everybody knows what the Newark Workforce Development Board does, and if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that, that'd be great.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate all of the support and all of the work that you've done, Chip, on the Newark Workforce Development Board. So the Newark Workforce Development Board is basically the strategic policy and operational arm of the workforce development system for the city of Newark. The One-Stop Career Center, Newark Works, all of the entities that work to help people gain employment, educational opportunities, all of that falls under the Newark Workforce Development Board. It's a business-led board that helps to engage businesses to make sure that the city of Newark and its residents have opportunities to gain employment, to become entrepreneurs, to level up, as you would say, to get the educational opportunities and the training to make sure that they're part of this economic renaissance that's going on in the city of Newark. So we work with the Department of Labor. We have different one-stop partners with employment services, unemployment insurance, the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, and a lot of different community partners that make up the one-stop center. And we work with the different workforce boards throughout the state of New Jersey to make sure that there's a collaborative effort to leverage funds and resources to make sure that, again, the residents of the city of Newark get the best opportunities that they can for employment and training.
Thank you. And Burnell?
Good morning, everyone. Burnell Hall, President and CEO of the Newark Community Economic Development Corporation. The NCEDC is responsible for small and local business development, as well as real estate development in every ward of the city.
I'd say that's pretty concise. Thank you for that. One of the things, and Natasha referred to Summer Youth Employment Program, I think. Want to talk a little bit about that, Amina?
Yes, well, the blessing for us with the Summer Youth Employment Program is that we are part of a city that is governed and run and operated by Newarkers, by people who were born and raised. I was born and raised in the city, born, raised, and educated here, South Ward, and now currently reside in the Central Ward. And because we grew up here, we were all a part of the Summer Youth Employment Program when we were younger. So we know what it looks like. We know what it should look like. And we are blessed to have a leader and a mayor who wanted to take it to the next level. He didn't want our children out just picking up garbage in the park, but wanted to make sure that they had an educational experience and that they gained actual work skills. And so the Summer Youth Employment Program here in the city of Newark went from 900 youth to now 3,000. We have 3,000 youth ages 14 to 24 throughout the entire city of Newark that work in various businesses. Many of you are employers of these young people, and we thank you very much. Um, you've also, many of you have been contributors and funders, and we thank Kevin Callahan for all of the work that he's done with the philanthropic community, and Marsha Armstrong, who leads the youth department, which is a part of Newark Works, and she does a phenomenal job. We have the largest and most comprehensive summer youth employment program in the entire state of New Jersey. That is not a brag, that is a fact. And the reason that we do is because, like Natasha talked about before, about collaboration, that the mayor makes sure that there is a concerted and an intentional effort to bring partners together. So we work with Rutgers University and the Newark City Learning Collaborative and the Newark College Institute, and we have different partnerships all over the city that help not only fund the program, but provide other opportunities like money management, financial literacy, work readiness, entrepreneurial training, so that the experience that they have for 6 weeks continues on throughout the year. So they're not just sitting in an office answering a phone or filing papers in alphabetical order. They are actually gaining actual skill sets that continue on until adulthood.
And I know and would encourage our employers in the city who haven't taken advantage of the program. It's a great way to contribute to youth development in the city. And it's amazing. I know for many years as a small employer, we've only got 7 employees. I always thought that we couldn't really provide much of an opportunity for a student. I didn't know quite what we would have them do, what their capabilities would be. And we've been very fortunate every year. This is the 4th year that we've had a student, and we have a college student at this point with us. But it's a great opportunity to really feel good about giving back to the city. And these are talented young men and women, and the work experience is really invaluable. So I urge you all to participate in that program. If not this year, then in the future.
Yes, I have cards. I'll be around.
Burnell, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you've got a broad range of responsibilities at NCEDC, and one of those is obviously business attraction. What are the things that you're selling here in the city right now, and how is that manifesting itself?
Well, the beautiful part about my job is that Newark sells itself. You know, it's funny, earlier you referenced how the conversation used to start. Well, for me, the conversation should start with the fact that you can't really name 10 cities that have Newark's infrastructure, right? A river runs through it. We have a seaport. We have an international airport. There's an Amtrak station. There's public transportation everywhere. And you also have an educated citizenry that really can speak to every industry that you would think of, right? So, you know, my job actually is just informing people of what already exists in such a way that allows Newark to shine, so.
Part of that infrastructure is technology. Everybody's in technology business these days, right? And that's certainly an important part of what we've got available. You want to talk about Newark Fiber?
Sure. As I mentioned, Newark is one of only a handful of cities with the type of infrastructure that it has. Well, one of the things that even pulls Newark out of that category and makes it a leader as it relates to a globally competitive economy is Newark Fiber. And Newark Fiber is an internet service provider company that the EDC actually owns a percentage of. And it's locally based, and it is 10G service across the board, and it's net neutral. And what does that mean? That means you're getting low-cost internet service, and it's all inclusive. That really has to sink in. I don't think people understand the value of what I just said. Well, some people do, because now, you know, we can boast and say that 1 Washington Park, the Haynes Building, 494 Broad Street all use the Newark Fiber service. We're hoping, as a result of these sort of conversations, more will subscribe. The other thing that having your own internet service provider company allows us to do is really sort of actualize what I call Baraka social economics, and he's allowed me using that tag. So, and what I mean by that is, you know, one of the partners that we're talking to heavily about integrating this service into their operation is the Newark Housing Authority. You know, a lot of people talk about bridging the digital divide. We believe that there is actually a path to do that. and that's bringing this low-cost, net neutral service into the homes of low-income residents all across the city. That is a national model that currently doesn't exist, but under the leadership of this mayor, it will be a reality.
Amina, when we talk about the strengths of the city, we know that a willing and able workforce is one of them. You want to talk a little bit about some of the programs that are available to employers coming here to prepare workers, or to workers that they have now that they'd like to train and move along in a structured way within organizations?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we get information out about all of the services and resources that are available through the Workforce Development Board, the One Stop Center, Department of Labor, and our collaborative efforts. One of them, a training for incumbent workers. You have workers who are part of your organization. They need to be trained to be able to move up, to supervise, to manage, and maybe some technological training. We're able to provide that free of charge for you because we have funding from the Department of Labor for that. Also, there's on-the-job training. If you're looking to hire new talent, but you're really not sure about how it's going to work out, we're able to provide 6 months worth of their salaries as long as you provide the training for them, and then we're able to evaluate and see that there's a good fit for your organization. These are some of the things that are available, and we just are working on doing a better job of getting the information out and sharing that with you. So we thank CHIP and the Newark Regional Business Partnership for the opportunity to be able to provide you with that information.
And we're working on a program in the fall, if I'm not mistaken, to convene people and let them know about these programs?
Yes, so the Newark Workforce Development Board and the Essex County Workforce Development Board, we have joint subcommittees together, and so our Business and Economic Development Subcommittee is working with us to facilitate a Small Business and Workforce Resource Solutions Summit on October 17th with Mayor Baraka and Essex County Executive Joe DiVincenzo to host us. And we really wanted to kind of bridge the gap between economic development and workforce development, because they're basically two sides of the same coin, and to make sure that we share information and tap into the different resources that help us work better together.
We talk a lot about opportunity, and something talked about a lot lately is opportunity zones. Burnell, do you want to touch on opportunity zones quickly and how the city is going to use them to further our economic development?
So there's a broad group of people working on this. I will just say that the city is really looking at using opportunity zones to touch every ward as it relates to development projects. I know, a lot of these are focused in central business districts of other cities. We really want to make sure, and kind of speaking to what was said earlier about inclusive prosperity and equitable growth, we want to make sure that this long-term capital goes into places that have experienced long-term disinvestment. Right? That's sort of the guiding principle as it relates to how opportunity zone funds will be used in the city of Newark going forward.
Mayor?
Yeah, I wanted to elaborate a little bit on that and something that Amina said. Also, NCEDC will be making a kind of going into a new area, kind of left turn, if you will. The state has just passed or given us the opportunity to have a land bank around the state. We've been advocating for this for a very, very long time. We are optimistic that the governor is going to sign it and into law. Newark is poised with our local legislation to be able to turn our NCEDC organization into a land bank, probably the first functioning land bank in the entire state of New Jersey at that speed. We'll be ready to go as soon as the governor signs off. And the intention on that is to be able to focus in on areas of the city that have been disinvested in for very, very long periods of time. The tension of the development downtown and the neighborhoods around the development has been the discussion mostly for the last 3 or 4 years around what's happening in Newark, and that has become the Newark story. But there's a whole entire piece of the story that has not ever been discussed, not even by the activist community down here, right? And that's the parts of the city that those people don't go in. right? There's deep parts of the South Ward, deep parts of the West Ward that have 4 or 5 blocks that are completely empty, maybe 1 or 2 houses on 4 blocks, right? Which is horrendous, and people have been living in those conditions for the last 5 decades, which fuels most of the things that you're talking about in terms of violence and the crime and all those other kind of things. So we have to have a real effort around land bank and land bank strategies and land trusts to be able to deliver development in those areas, and economic strategies that have a lot to do with what's going on in the downtown area, where people are automatically driven to capture some of that wealth and begin to redistribute it in areas where people have not seen anything at all. And it's a heavy, heavy lift, but this is something that we have to do, and I think the land bank is a part of that. And the work that Amina is doing, we're doing huge work in 2 levels, trying to prepare people for the jobs that are growing in the industries that are growing in the city, in the central business district and around here. We're trying to make sure that residents who are ready can be a part of these jobs and the job growth that's happening down here. But there's a plethora of other residents who travel very far to go to work, who are not making enough money when they travel to go to work. They're using their money on travel, because less than 50% of the people in this city actually have a car, right? So most people use public transportation, which is why the public transportation system needs to be tight, needs to be better, needs to be more efficient. It has a lot to do with inequity when you start talking about the acquisition and use of public transportation and upgrading it. And so that's important for people to work in and around their city. So it saves them money. What you think may be nothing, $50 a week, $100 a week on transportation is huge. It means food, it means clothes, it means a vacation that you normally wouldn't be able to take. And so we have to be able to get people to work in the town, right? We have to be able to get them to work here in these communities. And so we're training them, we're getting them ready to work in these neighborhoods and work in the communities where they live. And that's why Hire by Live is important on a whole bunch of different levels. So it's not just about getting you to hire Newark residents so you can feel good. It's about you helping us transform a city that's poised to be transformed. So the work that you're doing will go a long way, right? It will have a deep impact. It is not like, pittance. We're ready, and the residents are ready. And that's the good thing. And that's what opportunity zones, that's why we're at the top of the list of the opportunity zones. That's why people saying Newark is at the top 4 cities in the country that you should be investing in opportunity zones. That's what the data is saying. It is also saying that we're the city that's probably the most poised to benefit from the social impact of this, which is why Rockefeller has given his first grant to the city of Newark, $900,000 to the city of Newark to build our infrastructure so we can benefit from opportunity zones, because we put the tools in place here. Right, so most cities, when opportunity zones come, they won't even know they're there. When opportunity zone money comes, they won't even know they're in the city, and it won't have the kind of impact that you want it to have, because it has to be deliberate, it has to be very intentional. And Rockefeller understood, Foundation, not the gentleman, understood that we have the tools and systems in place to actually benefit from that. They wanted to enhance. So it's the first city they've actually donated did a grant to, and that's awesome. It says volumes about the work that the people around, in City Hall are doing. A lot of people give me credit for a lot of the stuff that goes on, and I always push back and say, I'm not collecting garbage. I don't arrest a single person. I don't work in the finance department. I'm not, bringing revenue to the city. I'm not balancing the budget. I'm not working on the opportunity zone. I'm not in the court like Avion Benjamin was. Just won our Civilian Police Review Board case. Just got it on my phone, by the way. But I'm not in the court doing all of these things. And the only thing I can do is provide a vision and harass people, right?
And I think we can say you're doing a very good job of that. Thank you, Mayor.
So that's basically, what we're doing, to create an atmosphere where the collaboration is paying us off. So thank you for that.
And it certainly is. So with that, it's a great lead into our next segment. I want to thank Amina and Burnell for being with us this morning, and we'll move on to our next segment. And in addition to hearing from the mayor and his leadership team this morning, we wanted to personally introduce a few Newarkers who are shining examples of the people who call the city home, and we're going to do that in just a minute. But before we do that, we want to introduce a young adult who has made an impression on us. You may recall that we've talked about our Young Entrepreneurs Academy that we run, a 24-week after-school program that we begin in October. It concludes around March. We've run it for 4 years. We're looking forward to our fifth come this year. And I do want to give a shout out to Newark Public Schools. Tracy Mumford's back there. I want to thank the Newark Public Schools for being a great partner with us. We had a great year of recruitment for students. We doubled the number of applicants to our program this past year. And our class this year had 20 students end the program. We had a student in every grade, 6 through 12, and they came from 10 different schools, private, charter, traditional public, and county. So we had a great representation, and a lot of that was due to the visibility that Newark Public Schools gave us for that program. With that, I want to introduce Emmanuel Obanaya, who will be graduating tomorrow night. Is that right? From Weequahic High School. Emmanuel, and you can sit or stand, whatever you like. Emmanuel was our representative. We have a Shark Tank-like part of our program. Emmanuel presented, was deemed by the judges to be our strongest presenter. That resulted in two things. Number one, we actually gave him money to begin his business and have invested in Emmanuel's business, which he can talk about in a moment. It also sent him to Rochester to compete against about 65 other programs around the country in a national competition where he told us he made a pitch for his business, King's Likeness, and we asked him to do that again here this morning. So, Emmanuel, go ahead. I told him he could sit or stand wherever he's most comfortable.
Hello, everyone. Who cares about how they look, first of all? Like, definitely everybody. Who cares about how they look in their photos? I believe you all do. So, my name is Emmanuel Obanaya, and I guarantee, like my business can guarantee, that we can produce images that will enhance your company and how you look to the world. So, I'm a school photographer at Weequahic High School in Newark, New Jersey, and I'm graduating tomorrow. And I have committed to NJIT, and I will be attending NJIT in the fall. I have completed several internships with various media production companies and modeling companies in Newark, New Jersey, and New York. I plan to begin my own media company, as Chip mentioned, King's Likeness. That's the logo. King Likeness is an event photography and videography company that will also provide professional portraits for our various clientele. In the past, I have documented special events for my high school as the school photographer, and my business hopes to provide personal branding for companies and startups in Newark, New Jersey, and the surrounding counties and cities to help enhance their image and make them look better for their clientele. I've already made connections with major corporations to a judge at the investors panels at the YEA, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and I have built a website and a portfolio to help further my business. By the end of the year, I hope to have booked about 20 portrait sessions and recouped the original investment into my business. I have various competitors, as we all know. There are a lot of photographers and videographers in New Jersey. Some of them include Nav, Photography by Nav, Mjala Macy, and Waveguard Photography. I have an advantage over these people because my photography services are way more affordable, and I offer better access to studio quality photos, printed photos rather than just digital photos, and I have strong photo editing skills as well as a unique eye for capturing special photos. as I already mentioned, I have two groups that my business targets. The first group would be young entrepreneurs who are starting up their companies with small and medium enterprises that need personal branding and need to have an image in the society. My second target is individuals who have an artistic brand and eye and want to enhance their personal image. As I mentioned, I already created a web page using Wix where I take online bookings. I have an Instagram with over 1,000 followers, a portfolio, and business cards. I plan to market my business through word of mouth, through my church, through the chamber networking with CHIP and Young Entrepreneurs Academy, and email blasts. One unit of my portrait package I sell for about $50. It includes 10 edited photos, which would take me about 2 hours to create this, 1 hour shooting and 1 hour editing. King's Likeness makes a gross profit of $26.82 per photo package and account for my time and the supplies required to make these packages. Just looking at these portrait packages, not considering even event photography, King's Likeness will make an annual net profit of about $835 on sales of 80 portrait packages in a year. And as my client base strengthens and my work strengthens, I believe to further increase my prices and include other services into my business. We have created, with the help of CHIP and the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, we created a sales projection for the year, which I have successfully exceeded in this past month, and we hope to sell way more packages by the end of the year. And as last month and this month was prom and graduation season, we had a lot of clients, and we have boosted our business and our client base. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to my business speech.
So I expect you're as impressed with Emmanuel as we are. And before I continue anymore, I want to recognize Emmanuel's father, Oji, who accompanied us to Rochester. Want to wave? A proud dad. And I also want to acknowledge and introduce Emily Mans, who's our Yay program manager and also an entrepreneur herself. Have you met Newark Tours? And your principal, Andre Haas, there he is. Principal of Weequahic High School, thank you. Thanks for being with us this morning. So very quickly, Emmanuel, one of the things that we talk about, and you're all familiar with and here for, is networking. And networking is something that we experienced firsthand. Yes. We ran into Emmanuel at a dinner not too long ago, and also talked to somebody who was looking for photography business, and we introduced them on the spot. You want to talk quickly about that job and what you may have learned from it?
It was at the Chad Foundation scholarship dinner. I am a recipient of that scholarship. So Chip introduced me to Miss Tony. I call her Miss Tony. Her name is Antoinette Richardson. So she's over there.
There she is.
So she hired me on the spot after speaking to me for a little while to cover their event for the mayor organized to recognize the top 5 students in the Newark Public School District. So I was hired to take photos and provide printed photos as well for the event. It was a great opportunity. I learned a lot from that hands-on experience, and it helped further my brand because it helped me see more and learn more about how the photography business works and how providing services, it's easy to say something and to deliver it might be at times a difficulty, but overall it was a great experience.
There was a lot of pressure for that because he had to take the pictures. I don't know how you arranged to take the picture while you were in it with the mayor, but that's for a whole another time. You stuck with the Yay program for 24 weeks. It's a long time, 3 hours on a Monday after school. What was it about the program? Obviously, you're driven to be an entrepreneur and are already a successful one. What would you say to other students who might be interested or to people in general about Yay?
Yay is actually one of the best programs I joined this past year. I have, like he said, I'm driven to learn more about entrepreneurship. And joining the Yay program was like an open opportunity because it was free. And to learn more about starting your own business, you don't get that every day. You don't see that everywhere. And when I go to school, I tell people about it. And I believe I have some of my fellow juniors from Weequahic High School joining the program next year. So it was an opportunity to learn more about starting up a business, because learning how business works in this country is not like the easiest thing, and it gets complicated learning with budgets and starting your business and getting licenses like we already spoke about today. So the Yay program being so comprehensive and detailed and teaching everything I needed to know made me stick with it and learn more about it.
Mayor, anything for Emmanuel?
Doing an awesome job, brother. Thank you. Good representation
Thank
for
you.
us all.
Let's give a hand to Emmanuel and King's likeness. If you are interested in helping to support the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, whether it be with financial contributions, nothing is free. It's free for the students, but as a fundraiser, our Renaissance Newark Foundation does raise funds to support the program throughout the year. We'd welcome your participation that way. But more importantly is we need mentors to help the students put their business plans together. We look for speakers who also can contribute to their knowledge of business. So again, I'll ask Emily to raise her hand or stand up for a moment so everybody can see it. Please see Emily if you're willing to help us. And if the Young Entrepreneurs Academy isn't something that necessarily comports with your interest, there are hundreds, literally hundreds of programs in this city where you can help the youth. So if you don't have, if the Yay doesn't do it for you, see us. We have 40 nonprofit organizations as members of ours and can introduce you to volunteer opportunities. So please, if you're looking for something to do, please talk to us. We'd be happy to point you in the right direction. With that, I'd like our next three guests to come and join us on the stage. Come on up, Denise, and I'm looking for come on up. This is my favorite part of the program. Ellen, where are you? There she is, a little reluctant. Leneza? And there she is. So we have their bios there so you can see who they are. And we'll hear from them a little bit. Our idea behind doing this, and certainly the mayor has talked a lot about Newark 2020, efforts to encourage more Newarkers to work in the city, more employers to hire them. And we wanted to demonstrate and give examples and show people what great people there are in the city. Many of you know that because you're employing them. But we wanted for them to have a chance to tell their story and how they've made their journey to where they are today. So with that, I'm just going to ask them to introduce themselves and talk to you a little bit about what they do now and what their journey has been to get them here. And Ellen, I'm going to let you start off, if that's all right with you.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Ellen Chandler, and I just wanted to take just a little background of the things that I accomplished to get to where I'm at today. First of all, I would like to thank God and my employer, ShopRite of Newark, for giving me this opportunity to share my story. I was born and raised in Newark. I went through a lot of trauma, grief, pain, incarceration, drug addiction, and homelessness. I made a lot of poor choices and bad decisions. Then I surrendered to the God of my understanding, and my life began to change. In 2014, I went through a culinary arts program at the food bank in Hillside. I received my Serve Safe certification, and I became one of the first chefs hired at the Newark and ShopRite in 2015. I started part-time, and then I became full-time in November 16. I've been employed with the company now for almost 4 years, and I thank God for my humble beginning, and I'm grateful that I'm able to provide for myself and my family.
I've said before that this is my favorite part of a program and my favorite program of the year, I have to say. So, Denise, would you like to let us know a little bit about your story?
Good morning. My name is Denise, and I am a Newark Beth Israel Emergency Department patient care technician. Thank you to Assistant Vice President Patricia Mason, who not only heard my introduction a year ago, but she listened to my introduction, who opened up my doors to Miss Atia, who not only heard me, but she went above and beyond phenomenally. She went to open up these doors to the Career Ladder program that brought me from a patient access representative simply registering a patient to now performing CPR under the staffing of Patricia Mason. And I cannot be more thankful for that Career Ladder program that allowed for me to go from registration to a patient care tech. It was the most helpful part of the year because I was working full time and going to school was not going to be easy. So she had the William Patterson instructor go to us. So that was the best part. We don't have to commute, and a lot of the girls in the class, they couldn't commute anyways. I was blessed to have a car, but you know, she went above and beyond to have that William Patterson instructor meet us in the class Monday to Thursday. We were there every day, and every other Friday we were there. It was for about 2-3 hours, and we had exams almost every day. It was a very, very difficult time, but we ended up having a patient care technician certification that we can take wherever we'd like, but we all decided to stay at Newark Beth. And that's the greatest part about it because I don't plan on ever leaving as I pursue my career as an occupational therapist.
Thank you, Denise. Leneza, we're in your house right now. So would you like to tell us a little bit about how your journey here at the Prue Center?
Definitely. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to my house. Pleasure to have you. My journey it was amazing. I'm the guest services coordinator here at Prudential Center. Started when about 12 years now, coming October, I've been here. From the start, when they had all the auditions down at NJ, New Jersey, I forgot what it was,
Performing
college
Arts
down
Center,
there. Yeah,
or-
there you go. And I was a freshman at Essex County. I was eager to start working, sitting still in the class. I'd done that from kindergarten to high school, so I was just ready and eager to get out there. So it's about 6,000 of us out there. It's hot, 6 a.m. We're all getting interviews. Everything's done like around 3 o'clock. And within a week, I had the opportunity to get an invite back and an interview, and it was amazing because it took so long, and I was getting a little impatient. I was like, whoa, then I didn't get it. But I ended up getting the job, and from usher, from the next promotion to the next promotion to the next promotion to the position I'm in now and the future positions that I'm going for as well. Determination was definitely a part of it. And whew, I actually dedicated to the squad. Newark, definitely. Brick City definitely held me down, showed me dedication. Hard work gets you a lot of places. And look at me now. I have no ceiling, so I'm gonna just keep elevating. That's just how I see it, you know?
Mayor, any questions or observations?
I think these ladies, the work that they're doing is a testament to how you can help the residents of our community and the deep impact you'll have immediately in people's lives. And I think that's important, the work that you're doing, Chip, and the Regional Business Partnership and bringing people together to see this hopefully inspires them to go back and create other stories like this and help these young ladies continue to move forward. And I just want to thank the companies and industries that ShopRite, obviously, you know, Greenstein over there, and the Beth, and you know, have been a great partner with us through and through with all the work that we're doing. You know, whether it's Newark 2020, you know, they've been hiring people in Newark for a very long time, and the Prue Center here, you know, for the work that you're doing. I mean, so I want to thank you and all of you out there. Hopefully, it's infectious, right? And they get involved as well.
So, Ellen, when we talked a little bit, we're running late, so I apologize for cutting this a little bit short, but I do want to. I know you're affectionately referred to as a pizza queen.
Yes.
So, and ShopRite makes they got an awesome pizza station, I have to tell you. So, what's the best pizza? What's your favorite? What do you do best there?
Well, a lot of people like my deep dish pizza. I also make a chicken Alfredo with garlic sauce. So when y'all in the area, please come by and stop and try my pizza.
And Denise, I know that you are, you talked about various positions you have, and right now you're in the emergency department as a tech. What's your next step in your, what's on your list at the Beth?
Continue working for the Beth as an occupational therapist. I'm currently in school, and I'm planning on hopefully becoming my doctorate and within 3 years as an OT, and I'll be working right under the Beth at the Pediatric Center.
Liza, you, and just talking to, how can you not be enthusiastic about this city or this place when she's here? Just a minute about what your responsibilities are, because when you walk in this place, your first impression is, even if you don't know it, going to be of Leneza.
Oh, definitely. So my day-to-day is first and foremost, our guests first, so that's all of you. Welcome again. So we strive on that here at Prudential Center. We emphasize on the small things. The small things could become big things. So we focus on that guest experience. We had a program this past season called the Memory Makers, and what the Memory Makers do, they secretly run around the facility and they find out people's birthdays, engagements, birthdays, like 50th birthdays, congratulations on high school graduation and college graduation, and we figure that out, run around, and we make it a big spectacle. We give them buttons, we get them custom-made jerseys, we take photos with them, we play with their kids, we play with their grandparents. We just make everyone have a memorable experience in a moment when they come through the building, whether it's for a concert or a hockey game. I just actually took my name tag off Memory Maker. Someone called me Memory Maker thinking that was my name, but so I took that off so I don't get that anymore. But for the most part, yeah, our organization strives on our guests. And that's my favorite part about it, because of my energy alone. I love making people happy. That's my go-to. If you're not happy, then what are you, So I love my smile, and hopefully I generate all that energy to my team and people that come through here to continuously come into Newark. This is one of the big factors in Newark nowadays for about 12 years now. So with people visit from all over the world, from next door in New York, and they, instead of coming to MSG and they choose to come here, I consider that a big key factor for our team.
I'd say so. So hopefully we've taken a tour of Newark sitting here right today, and we've seen some terrific talent in the administration. We've heard a comprehensive vision from the mayor and his team about what needs to be accomplished. We've heard from Newarkers who have really made something of themselves and helped to advance their careers. And again, as I said with Emmanuel, there are thousands of these good people here in the city. And we want to continue to provide opportunities for them, continue to connect the dots so that everybody can be successful. Before I turn this over to the mayor for a couple last words, another thank you, excuse me, to the RWJ Barnabas System and Newark Beth for their sponsorship and leadership of this series. Our host sponsor, the Prudential Center, did a great job. I think the food was terrific. If you haven't seen the lofts and the new space there, please take the time to do so. There are lots of great events here. Yet one more reason to come to Newark. Our breakfast sponsors this morning, Broadridge Financial, CNC Construction, Connell Foley, and Pannoni. Thank you very much. And our media sponsor, New Jersey Advanced Media, who is always so supportive of what we do. So hopefully you got energized about the city, energized about ways that you can help make a contribution to our success. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor for the last word.
Yep. Just want to say thank you, Chip, and the board of NRBP. The work that you're doing is great. We appreciate it. Prudential Arena for this morning. It's been awesome. I don't think I had a breakfast layout like that since I've come to these events. We got to make sure we come back. I don't know if these people are going to go back to work. You fed them so much. They're a little full, but this is awesome. I mean, Newark is moving in the right direction in my mind. Natasha told you something. There is a document called Newark Forward. I would be honored if all of you we could try to get that to you. You can display it in your businesses, pass it out to your employees, to let people know what our vision statement is for the city of Newark, so we can get everybody involved in helping move Newark forward. So thank you again.
Mayor, thank you very much for taking the time out to be with us this morning. Thank you all for joining us. If we can ask all of our speakers very quickly to jump up on the stage for a quick photo. Have a great day. Thank you all for being here.